Yeah, very good morning. Very good morning to all. So here we have been discussing on how the managerial functions are and what is the importance of those things with respect to when you are going with an organization. So let us continue with a few more things like span of control. So the span of control actually indicates the number of subordinates who can successfully be directed by a supervisor. So you might have observed that each supervisor may be having 5 to 10 subordinates associated with them to perform a specific task. So that's all about that. We call it as span of control. So how many people he can control to his limits. So that's very important. It is often referred to as span of management, span of supervision, or span of authority. Span of management is important because of two reasons. So first one is that span of management affects the effective utilization of managers and the effective performance of the subordinates. If the span is too wide, for example, if 100 people are associated with one person, it becomes very difficult. So managers are overburdened and subordinates receive little guidance. So they will not come to know that what really is happening. If the span of management is too narrow as well, the manager are underutilized and the subordinates are over controlled. So those things happen. So it's very important that you should have a specific, usually 5 to 10 employees with a manager, 10 or 15 you can have, which is an optimum figure. So the second reason is that it depends on activities also which the manager is associated with. So he can control as per that. So the second reason is that there is a relationship between the span of management and the organization structure. And a narrow span results in tall organizations with many levels of supervision between top management and lowest organization levels, which creates more communication and cost problems. So these are some of the things. And in order to, in other hand, a wide span of the same number of employees result in a flat organization. So you might have seen that when you go from top to bottom, you can see that there sometimes a flat type of management process. And factors affecting what are the main factors which affects the span of management is like ability of the manager, ability of the employees, type of work, geographic location, well-defined authority and responsibility, level of management, economic considerations. All these are some of the factors which can affect the span of management. So along with that, we'll be discussing on the centralization and decentralization. Most of us might have heard about it, the process of centralization and decentralization of authority and responsibility. Some of the things are done centralized and some has to be decentralized based on the requirement of the industry. So centralization refers to systematic reservation of authority at a central point within the organization. The centralization means that at the manager in few key managerial positions at never center of organization at the from the top level. So some things has to be done all people put together, and some things has to be decentralized as well. So everything that goes to reduce the subordinates role in the decision making is centralization process, and decentralization is the decision making power to lower level of organization. So in decentralization setup, ultimate authority or to common command. So sometimes you have to decentralize the work by because you have to make sure that the process happens in a smooth systematic way. So decentralization refers to a systematic effort of delegation of lower levels of and it can be like an expected way of approach that okay, this much of work can be assigned for this set of people for accomplishing the task. So in decentralization setup, large number of decisions, important decisions in large number of areas are made by the people. So There are some of the advantages as well in the process of decentralization. So let us see that it eases the burden of top level managers, as well as decentralization permits quicker and better decision making. When you to go with decentralization, capable of managers can be developed and promotes the decision making and improves the moral and motivation. So you can concentrate on a less number of crowd, and you can make sure that the things happens better in the process of decentralization. And diversification of products and all these are some of the advantages. As well, we have some disadvantages also. It increases the administrative expenses, as well as it may create problems in beginning, bring coordination among the various units, as well as inconsistency in the company. And so these are some of the disadvantages because of the process of decentralization. Along with that, let us see that delegation versus decentralization. So how the things can be. Delegation is the process, while decentralization is the end result of the deliberate policy of making delegation widespread of in the organization. And delegation takes place between the supervisor and the subordinate, while decentralization in the companies wide, and delegation as between top management and the division or departments of the organization. So delegation exercises supervision and control over the delegates, and so top management exercises a broad minimum control. So these are some of the things which can be talked about the delegation. And along with that, some of the principles of delegations are there, respective willingness to let go, and willingness to let others make mistake, willingness to trust subordinates, willingness to establish the use of broad control. And also these are some of the principles of delegation. And sometimes no, we have to have trust on the subordinates, and we have to make the things okay. Sometimes we give some complicated task for the subordinates, we have to make sure that okay, let it go as per that. And how best they let there be some time flexibility. So how the things can be brought in, and how best you can utilize for the better productivity. So let us also add on with this certain things like authority and power. So authority and power is very important concepts. It is the institutionalization rights or industrialization rights of a supervisor to command and compel the subordinates to perform a certain task. Or you can in the authority, it is the power of a position, and it is delegated to the individuals by his supervisor. And it's well defined, and it's what exists in the eye of law. And all these things are the authority. Power, you can say that the ability of a person to influence others. So you might have observed that the manager says something, you are not supposed to question whatever it is there. So so you blindly do the process whatever it is suggested, because it might have been suggested by his superiors. So those things are there, and it rests in the individual, and it is earned by individuals. So some of the powers are earned by the certain individuals because of their ability to withstand. They will be dynamic, and they can withstand many problems. And it's also undefined and infinite. So they can capture the people. They have the ability to talk properly, attract the crowd, impact they can create. They can all these things are also the things, or the power of money also sometimes comes into picture. So it is what exists. In fact, it's a de facto concept. So these are the differences between the authority and power. So what do you mean by responsibility? So it's very important to be responsible for the industry, and to be responsible towards the subordinates to whom a duty has been assigned to and perform the duty. Responsibility arises between the superior and subordinate relationship as well. Responsibility is divided into two parts, namely operating responsibility and ultimate responsibility. So, based on the requirement of the job, no, you have to take up that and you have to accomplish the task for the betterment of the industry or the academic institution. So, if the subordinates fail to perform the job, the superior is held responsible for his failure. So, sometimes, no, when the subordinates are not able to perform, even the superior has to get involved into that process and make sure that the entire team works fine and you are going to be a successful uh, you are going to accomplish the task in a systematic and successful way. So that is what it is required. So all these things are very important: authority, power, responsibility. We have seen delegation, decentralization, centralization process. All these things was discussion of today, and we have to make sure that all, like if you have authority or power, whatever it is there, or responsibility, should be optimized, and you have to make sure that there is no problems arise whenever you are into any process of accomplishing a task. So by this next class, next we'll be discussing on nature and importance of staffing, and what is the role of staffing in an industrial requirements. So with this, I'll conclude here. Thank you all for being part of this session. Thank you.